it's really so helpful. And you can see often by, because we as teachers, basically we have the same library like you, and maybe the whole point of doing a PhD and so on is often not that you will know everything, but what you start to learn is basically how basically in 2 days you basically get the knowledge almost of an expert in that field, right? And that is often by using these kind of sources. Okay, so you can see there are kind of additional encyclopedias. Also another very good source could be book reviews. Let's say we already heard about, now maybe going to the architecture discourse, for example, if you have a particular book where you find this is really inspiring me a lot for my thesis, it's very important, and it might be quite thought-provoking to read 3 different kind of book reviews, because as long as you follow one author, one book, what I usually always find, if you start maybe reading in a book, and as long as you not draw yourself out of it, then maybe everything sounds very logical. You see, oh yeah, all makes sense, right? And you think, oh, this is actually true, everything. You know? But then you read a book, the review, and you say, wait a minute, I could actually, the same topic, I could actually address totally different, or this author has totally forgotten to write about another aspect. And which could be a chance for you to find a new idea, a new kind of approach to invent a new part for your thesis, for example. So this is book review. I think is also a very good aspect, and basically, I would say this is already almost what I want to tell you, and I just feel like why is this important? I find if you talk about particular terms in your thesis, you see directly if somebody has done this kind of research or is just taking a kind of a lazy stand to something, right? Because the way, the criticality and the way how you discuss something is just either you see that there are many layers of depth in there, or it's basically something I can ask everyone to look in Wikipedia myself, actually, right? So, for example, often we talk about this kind of aspect like density, for example, is a very interesting term, and of course I showed some of my students probably before those kind of things. That, for example, density by the time maybe of a master student, it might be good to know that maybe it's not, there may be 3 different kind of densities. It's not only maybe one, and also you can calculate in many different ways. But now, for example, if you go an extra step, maybe until recently, I knew only this one, and I used for teaching, and it's like, oh, this is very nice. But then maybe you talk with the next scholar, and then you say, oh, actually, other people already are kind of 3 steps ahead. And for somebody in that field, it would be good to know this, because you are basically up to date of today's knowledge, right? If you would be in medicine, probably would be the same thing. If you go to probably to the hospital now, you would also expect somebody knows the newest thing about CT or particular treatments and so on. And in architecture, I think it's similar. And you could say, well, this is, for example, already a fantastic source, but also it's actually a very nice website that Tani Lee built up. But if you would Google, then would maybe you through those e-journals, you would be maybe at a kind of more recent study on urban density by Tim Dovey, for example, who's somebody who's in University of Melbourne and very theoretically sharp, and basically thought through all those kind of aspects of density, public space, and so on. And for example, comes already with a discussion of relating not only, for example, building dwelling units and a number of people in GFA, but basically creates already a model where you also integrate, for example, the amount of public spaces, the amount of jobs, and so on, right? So for somebody in doing urban research, I think it's very, very interesting, and you see all of a sudden, oh, wow, I have to update myself also as a teacher constantly, because there are many smart people around. And on the one hand, of course, it frustrates you. You say, oh, why didn't I have the idea myself? But on the other hand, it's also inspiring because you see, like, oh, there's constantly kind of new knowledge, and if I know this, actually, it helps me also to make a better job, right, or to understand something better. And so this is at least kind of my experience, and I'm always kind of fascinated if I find something like this, because I learn something new, and I think you as kind of new coming architects, and I think you should be curious, and also you should have the ambition to have the best knowledge available. No? And I find we are so lucky with the kind of resources that we have here at the university, that we have basically almost unlimited knowledge around there, very updated. The latest articles of maybe half a year ago, you can just click and download as PDF. You can have all this. So I think it's nice if you develop a certain kind of ambition to know those things, right? And then in a very short time, because I know you also, we talk a lot about that, of course, in the first term, you not only do desktop research, but also should get very early into the design and go backwards and so on. So I have nothing against it. I also believe this. But in fact, the good thing about these kind of systems, that they are actually relatively easy to handle, that they're very fast, and you just have to make the effort. If you now, whatever your topic is, you go home over the weekend, and probably the next time you would meet with your advisor, you could have a stack of fantastic articles on that particular topic that you are researching, just by, actually you just need 1 afternoon basically. And you see really the difference between those people that do it or not, you know? And if you see, for example, the work of those urban studies students, or we have similarly from WPI, from America and so on, other people do that. And if you just feel, oh, I can get away and just make a nice drawing and a nice collage, and then I write kind of relatively thin text, I think it's a pity. Okay, sorry, this is actually a very short presentation. And by the way, I think that Stan's presentation was very to the point, and I hope that you actually got some of those kind of interesting intellectual plays that he has in his presentation. And it's basically only a kind of very pragmatic addition to that. Yeah. Okay, any question? Maybe not necessary because it's very very pragmatic, but do you have something you want to ask? How many of you used these kind of resources before? Maybe I could imagine like 2 or 3, maybe not one. And so I think at some point it's because I think the way we work in architecture, sometimes you're fantastic in other areas, but sometimes you don't do so much on that level. But it's all there for you to use, and it's very easy. So that's why, because I had the feeling not many of you know that, so I thought like, okay, I do something very pragmatic but maybe helpful.
Okay, I don't have too much to add, just to say that the seminar is in a way set up to move in parallel, right, with the thesis development, and what is, I guess, complementary between the two talks is that first thing you have to do is be able to define your questions, right? Define a kind of focus so that you can begin the searching process. So I still go back to with my kind of 5 Ds, right? To be able to define a clear topic, clear question. That clear question might come from a series of say, keywords or a series of things that are not yet defined in the beginning. But and that's when you can look for the answers through those questions through research. So then there's the idea of the dwell, being able to use the resources that are available to you. Maybe the first step is to scan through and to find potential gaps. Thesis project has to contribute to the topic. You don't need to double up. You don't need to reproduce another project, a better project. Right? You need to find out what the issues are and contribute to the missing gap, say, and then be able to say digest, deduce these information. Once you collect them, don't just show your advisors a pile of information.
Mm-hmm.
You need to say deduce from it, right? Draw from it, be able to say digest the information and spit out right your own perspective on things. And then we go into the design mode, right? To say develop in iterations to test these things, to test these assumptions, and then finally be able to say defend your proposition. So then the next seminar, with most likely with Peter, myself, and maybe one other person, right, to share with you some of the methods of doing research beyond, say, the desktop. Right? So this is definitely one thing that we have to do. But then, what are the other ways in which you can probe, right? Information that are maybe empirical. You come up with ways of doing interviews. You actually go to a scene to record a certain kind of condition. So we'll try to kind of offer a different approach of doing research. And then the third one for term, the first semester is speculation. So once you have all these things, what do you do with it? How do you translate these knowledge, these abstract kind of ideas, concepts into maybe things that you can assemble, right? That's material. It's more material, right? And convey it in a way that's both written but visual. So that's the intention of these three say seminars. Okay. And why we spend so much time here on the abstract and so on is that this is to prepare you for the 5,000 word written thesis. So think of it as a say provisional process. Don't just write, finish writing. Summer is over, and then you're going to start writing in November, worst, right? End of November. Every review, you're expected to come up with a revision, extension from your thesis abstract. Okay, so in a way, you write 3 times. For a total 4 times, you start with the abstract, and every review, not only do you collect info, but to start translate those things into written forms. So at the end of the term 1, you submit the 5,000 word paper, which is you can follow the template that's given in the course server. Any comments or questions? I think the rest are basically in here. It's fairly clear. You read through it yourself. I think I don't need to go through it too much. And some of the templates are given. We noted, say, presentation requirements. Presentation requirements even for the end of the term. To not, say, go horizontal. Many boards, many drawings. We prefer density of ideas. Right? So there's a limit to your boards. I think 10 A1s maximum. 10 A1s? Yeah. For term 1. So don't go crazy with the size, right? Thinking that you print bigger or more, it's better. But it's more about the intellectual inquiry of the thesis, and then with more precise kind of visual representation. Okay. So the next seminar is about a month from today. Always on the Friday. Okay. No.
I'd like to thank Stan and Hendrik again for sharing their experience with all of us. I think it's very helpful to the point. I was thinking about Le Corbusier as they were speaking, because he famously said, to design well merely requires talent, but to program well requires genius. And essentially, this first term of your thesis work is identifying a program for your thesis. So it's really incumbent upon you to go about it in a way that has some intellectual rigor. And really to understand what is architectural research. That was such an important part of the thesis, but there are times when I do wonder, both not only from the students we have, but even among us as a faculty. We have 18 thesis advisors, and probably 18 different ways of approaching this part of the thesis. So it's good to have some common ground and understanding that we could have a common discourse. So I think this is quite critical. In fact, in many schools, there is no thesis. Many of the American schools just have students. When I went to school, okay, it's 4 years ago, I think they have thesis. Do they have thesis in Harvard now? In my day, we did. It was called Terminal Studio, which is an appropriate label. The British system, year-long projects, common. At AA, even from year 2, it's a year-long student where you develop your own program. So basically, each year is like a thesis. So we have sort of a hybrid. I hope it's the best of both worlds, not some say we do neither. Well, that would be bad. I think, honestly, the thesis program, if I just speak unfiltered with you, all right, as I would with the faculty, is probably the area of our program which is not strong enough. Oftentimes, students will do a poster with a couple of labels, and they think that's research. That's not. That's a poster. I'm reminded by S.C. Banyasa, who is our former chair, and he's going to give the next seminar in October.
Probably November.
And listen to him closely because he's a brilliant educator. And he always reminds us that the study of architecture is ultimately the study of the works of architecture. That's why the case studies are very important. I know a lot of you are starting off with very broad topics, and that's fine. It's fair that we should explore those. But eventually it has to be really in terms of architectural references, the guiding and the design of your architectural composition. So I think what Stan advised us today about the case studies, how you cluster images, which is very important, how you do the presentation, as Patrick said, you're going to have a limit on the paper. More is not more. It's really the content and the density of that content. And finally, I just as a personal reflection, I think the keywords is a really important starting point. I have been doing this for basically my entire professional life. As an architect, you will find you will write more than you design. Unfortunately, I spend more time in my practice writing than sketching. And you have to develop a method to do it quickly and effectively. And I always start off by saying, okay, just this one. I've got to mention these points. And then I will develop a sentence or two and just write these bullet points. And eventually it becomes that document on paper, even a reference letter or a 3 words. What are the most salient characteristics of that person? I'll spend a little time thinking about that. And then I'll develop that whole letter on those points. And it makes it very specific to the person. I don't like generic reference that says something. I think if you can think about that over the weekend, next Monday, my 3 students, please listen, and everyone else, if you want to do it, it's up to you. But my 3 students on Monday, do come in with the keywords for your thesis, and if only think about working titles, which will change at least 10 times between now and December, but we always start with one because it helps focus your attitude and your approach. And remember that when you do research, and also the design of your project, the actually the same process. It's really all about crafting. You'll find that it's all interweaved like the DNA. By all means, don't wait till November to sit down and say, oh shit, I've got to write 3,000 words or 5,000 words. That's not the way to do it. Build it up, word by word, line by line, block by block, and they'll all come together and show in a very natural way, just like you design. So I hope you'll take this opportunity and let's raise the standard of thesis in our school. Okay, so thanks.
Any questions? Otherwise, this is the end of the seminar. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I